Welcome to Prepper Nation. I'm John. Thank you very much for being here. So, are we looking at a collapse, a full blown collapse? Is the collapse finally here, folks? That is this morning's discussion. Michael Waters, thank you very much for sponsoring the coffee this morning, brother. Truly appreciate that. So, we're looking at the edge, I believe, of the collapse. And I'm going to go two different ways on this to try and explain it, to try and make it make sense. And I have a conspiracy theory to pitch here at the end. So stick around if you're interested in that kind of stuff. So getting right into it, we need to first forget 2020. When we're talking about numbers, 2020, there was a pandemic, right? That's an anomaly. All the numbers are all over the place. A lot of places were not open, or they were open with limited hours, where they just had drive-throughs open, this sort of thing. So take 2020 and all of the numbers, put that over here on the side because it was a crazy year. Y'all remember, right? So Starbucks, their stock over the past month has dropped 17%. And I get it. Not a lot of Starbucks fans here at Prepper Nation, and I concur with that, by the way. I'll start drinking Starbucks coffee when they start serving coffee, son. What they serve over there is not what I consider to be coffee. However, it's not just Starbucks. To give you a quick list, Starbucks, McDonald's, KFC, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, Wendy's, Chipotle, all have dropped off of a cliff this past quarter. In fact, they have not seen sales decline in these restaurants, these fast food chains, since the Great Recession of 2008. Again, 2020 numbers aside, since 2008. And they're saying this is a very worrying sign that people no longer have disposable income whatsoever. Because what typically happens and what has been happening, in my opinion, is people have been complaining. They've been living off of credit. They've been trying to stretch it from paycheck to paycheck, but people have still been eating out. They complain, right? The prices have went up, but they've still been eating out. Well, this past quarter, again, first time since 2008, it has totally dropped off of a cliff. All of the above mentioned and more, they're in total panic mode at this point. They don't really know what to do. So, McDonald's and Starbucks are the two biggest. Okay, they've seen less foot traffic, less price per order. They're going about it two different ways. So, McDonald's is experimenting, toying around with the idea of a $5 value menu. This would be a loss leader, especially in states where employees have demanded $18, $20 an hour. Now Californians are demanding $25 an hour to work fast food, but that's another topic for another day. Okay. McDonald's knows if they sell a meal, now this is going to include, like, I think the McDouble or the McChicken, small fry, 4 chicken nuggets, mystery meat nuggets, whatever, and a small drink. They're going to lose money, but they're trying to get people back into McDonald's in hopes that they're buying other stuff. Starbucks is taking it a totally different route. They've actually increased their prices. They think that's how you're going to deal with it. Well, we just want the elite people coming into our coffee shops, and the heck with everybody else. So that's the restaurant side of things. Again, quick eat, fast food, sit down restaurants have been in trouble for a while now. But again, what happens is people forego when money's tight, they'll forego the sit down restaurants and they'll hit fast food because usually it's cheaper. But right now it's not cheaper and people don't have the expendable income, so they're just not eating out as much anymore. Period. So switching over into a different lane now into the market, the stock market. This is being called the worst bear market ever. And major banks, just to put this into perspective, okay? If you're in the market for a credit card, which hopefully you are not, just a little prepping advice. Right now, especially, I would not take on any debt I did not have to take on. It would have to be an absolute necessity. But a lot of people have been taking on debt, right, in order to survive. Um, right now, if you apply for a credit card through any of the major banks, depending on your credit, 20% APR 26% APR, and 29.99% APR. Those are high numbers. All right. And the reason is banks don't want to loan money right now. They don't want to give people credit cards. This should be a worrying sign. When banks do not want to loan consumers money with interest, it should be a bad sign, right? American credit card debt right now is at $1.13 trillion. It's totally out of control. So, Chase, Wells Fargo, Capital One, Bank of America, there are others, but those are four of the heavy hitters. They are now saying that they are seeing the highest percentage of charge-offs, people that just are not paying their bills. Credit card bill every month, people are like, forget this, we can't afford it, not paying it. Highest percentage of charge-offs since, guess when? 2008, right? So we're seeing this in the fast food industry now. The worst numbers since 2008. Again, 2020's over here. We're not paying attention to that. Banks are now saying this is the worst we've seen it since 2008, and they're projecting that it's going to be far worse than 2008. I think the major banks know this crash is incoming. They're admitting, a couple of the CEOs, a matter of fact, Chase and Capital One, the one I read was Capital One. He admitted, the crash is incoming. We're not trying to loan a bunch of money right now, especially with credit cards, because people are not paying those credit card payments every month. And I think what is going on here is Americans are finally in survival mode. We've been talking about the crash, it seems like forever now. The writing has been on the wall for a very long time. But again, banks were loaning money, people were taking out credit cards, etc. People were able to survive and pay their monthly bills, buy groceries. I know so many people that have bought groceries recently with credit cards, or they've opened credit cards, and I've tried to tell them, you really don't want to do it. You're going to have to cut down on the way you live. Your standard of living has to drop at some point because it's not sustainable. My whole deal with credit cards is if you have to borrow the money, you're probably not in a great position to eventually pay it off anyway. If you were in a great position to pay it off, you don't need to borrow the money in the first place. Now, I understand, emergencies happen and things like this, but this is why I'm so against credit card debt here in 2024. So Americans are in survival mode, and they're finally waking up to wants versus needs. I want this. People are like, I want the Starbucks drink. I want to be able to go out and eat at Chipotle or eat at Wendy's or something like this, but it's no longer a need. I can't afford it. The needs are groceries, electricity, taxes, things like this. It's finally catching up. And I think it's going to be worse than the Great Recession of 2008 for the people that experienced that firsthand. Because, and here's why I think this before we move into conspiracy mode, okay? Back in 2008, the government bailed out a lot of banks. They bailed out a lot of big companies, and they sent out stimulus money. Again, we just went through a pandemic that flatlined our economy. We're tied up in multiple wars. I don't think our government has the money anymore to bail companies out. And the big difference between the Great Recession of 2008 and the Great Depression where there were no bank bailouts. You understand what I'm saying? They were bailed out in 2008 to avoid a Great Depression. I don't know that we can do it again. So conspiracy time, okay? Um, Personal opinion, y'all let me know what you think. I believe globalists have figured out Donald Trump because Trump is polling ahead of Biden in every single major poll. Left-leaning polls, right-leaning polls, middle of the road polls, Trump is winning far and away. Okay? And I think globalists have realized we cannot stop this man from getting back into the White House. We have tried everything. So in my personal opinion, and again, it is, a conspiracy, theory on my part. I totally get it. I think they're trying to destroy the economy as much as possible before Trump takes office. The worse off this country is, the harder it's going to be for Donald J. Trump as president to get the economy back on track. Getting back to the pandemic for a second, some of y'all said that was by design, okay? Again, conspiracy theory, right? However, Trump had the economy humming, pandemic bottoms it out. It feels to me like it's a gut feeling on my part. I will admit that. It feels like they are gutting the economy and they are bottoming it out before they hand it back over to Donald Trump. I believe this is being done by design. But that's just my 2 cents on it. The comment section will be wide open. I'm going to start pinning a question down there every single day. It'll be prepping related, just in case y'all want to add to the conversation. But I really, really do suspect this is being